To Chris Gunness. He's the former spokesperson for the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Welcome to the programme, Chris. Benjamin Netanyahu's office says that the food is being allowed in, the limited amount, to ensure no starvation crisis develops. I don't know who would fall for that Israeli propaganda. People are regularly falling to the ground, feeling dizzy. They're fainting from malnutrition. The WHO says starvation is there.
Look, it's sick, it's cynical, and it should not be believed. Make no mistake, this is all aimed at America and the other states like Germany and the UK who are providing military and logistical support. It's Netanyahu's way of saying, we will carry on and we will defeat Hamas, one of the mother of all lies that they are peddling. And while that happens, we promise you we won't allow starvation to take place. It's utterly ludicrous. Where is Keir Starmer? Where is Donald Trump? Where are these people who supply the weapons and the logistics? Where are the Germans? You know, we've got a situation where 150 babies are born every day in Gaza, and we have a situation where cesarean sections are being done on women without anaesthetic. And I hope every mother in the world who's listening, who hears that fact, realises the horror. We've got a situation where drugs for children with cancer not being allowed in, apparently on the grounds that Hamas will steal it. Is Hamas really going to steal drugs for cancer? Insulin for children with diabetes. Apparently Hamas is going to take that and drink it. I don't know what they'll do with it. Pumping nut that's need for malnutrition to stop children starving to death. Apparently Hamas is going to steal that. It's absolute nonsense. It's cynical. And the idea that this newly minted aid organisation is going to deliver aid to the people of Gaza and prevent starvation. The roads are not capable of delivering aid. They've been bombed to pieces. The infrastructure is not there. We've just had Smotrich, the finance minister, saying in the media that they would allow one piece of pita bread per day per person in Gaza, even if they can do that. As your correspondent has just been saying, hundreds of trucks were allowed in during the ceasefire, 600-700, and before the war, even more than that every day. The idea that now that there are children, women, pregnant mothers starving to death and being so severely affected by malnutrition that this cynical fig leaf that Netanyahu is offering to his allies like the Americans, like the Brits, like the Germans, will stave off starvation. It's a sick joke. It should not be believed. The Security Council needs to get involved. We need Chapter 7 action. We need enforceable action. We need sanctions against the Israelis. That's the only language they understand. And the International Court of Justice in The Hague has said that there have to be. In its advisory opinion on the occupation of July last year, it was very, very clear there has to be a complete blockade of Israel to bring that nation to its senses. Only that will prevent the genocide which we're now seeing unfolding.
You're just touching there at the end on the role of international law. So let's make it again just about what's happening in Gaza, because the Americans, I think you may have alluded to it, have this idea that a private contractor will now soon begin distributing aid in Gaza. But the UN says it won't work with that idea. So where does it leave the idea?
It won't work because we've seen the attempt to militarize the distribution of humanitarian aid. We all remember the flour massacre in February last year when the IDF contracted out the delivery of aid. In the middle of the night, these truck drivers brought in aid, parked near an Israeli checkpoint. There was a panic. Israeli soldiers opened fire. Over 100 people were killed. Over 700 people were wounded. That's what happens. It's a complete waste of time. We remember the famous Gaza pontoon, 250, I think it was, $1 million, completely washed away and wasted when they tried to militarize aid by bringing it through military means through the coastline. It's not going to work. Where that leaves people, it leaves people who are actually dying of starvation. We need to stop using this phrase, facing starvation. The people of Gaza aren't facing starvation. They are starving to death, and they're starving to death now. And that's why I say there has to be action. And I have to tell you that only UNRWA has the infrastructure, the food warehouses, those that haven't been completely destroyed, the aid distribution centers, the workers, 10,000 workers plus in Gaza. The Secretary General and Philippe Lazzarini, the Commission General, has made clear time and time again that only only UNRWA can be the backbone of a humanitarian response. Only UNRWA can make sure that the starvation, which is already killing people, can to some extent be controlled. But really, we've moved beyond this facing starvation line. People in Gaza are starving to death. They are dying of malnutrition. And it is a deliberate, let's face this is a famine. This is a genocide of choice. And make no mistake about it. And those in my own country, in the UK, in America, in Germany and others who have given Israel the support to enable this to happen, they are complicit in genocide. They are complicit in ethnic cleansing. They are complicit in the war crime of using starvation as a weapon of war. And, you know, I wonder what Mrs. Starmer is saying to her husband today. And I wonder what the Starmer children will be saying to their father. Father, what did you do when you had an opportunity to stop a 21st century genocide, to stop in our day starvation being used as a weapon of war? What did you do? And I'd love to be in that room when Keir Starmer is forced to answer that question.
Chris, when the Syrian war was full blown, I used to say to my friends, let Prime Minister David Cameron take his family to Aleppo and live there for a year and come back to London and then decide what his foreign policy should be. When you were working for UNRWA, there was a tense relationship with Israel, of course, but it's hardened so much since then. Where are Palestinians left now that the Israeli government is banned from being in contact even with UNRWA, let alone working alongside it?
Well, let me say that decision to treat UNRWA like that was based on what I called and continue to call the mother of all lies. The independent Colonna report said that Israel produced absolutely no evidence to substantiate its false accusations against UNRWA that its workers took part in the attacks on Israel. So that's my starting point. Where does it leave the people of Gaza? Well, it leaves the people of Gaza facing starvation, and it makes the leaders in the rest of the world who are allowing that to happen complicit in that genocide and in that war crime, in that crime against humanity, in the genocide. And to say again, it's a genocide of choice. Our political leaders are choosing to let a genocide. Palestine is being dismantled. They are allowing the dismantlement of Palestine. It drives back any idea of a two-state solution by decades. And in the short term, it allows 2 million people potentially to starve to death. That starvation has already happened. So it leaves world leaders with some serious questions to answer about complicity in war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide. And it leaves the people of Gaza, sadly, completely defenseless. You know, we talk about this, we call it the Gaza war. There isn't a war. There is 2 million defenseless people being killed, being murdered every single day. Over 100 people are being killed every day in Gaza. Shame on the world. It's an absolute abomination. Shame on Keir Starmer. Shame on David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary. Shame on Donald Trump. Shame on all of those establishments in Germany and other places where this live streamed genocide is on our screens every day. It's a genocide of political choice. Shame on those who have allowed this to happen.
Chris, thank you so much for the contribution. We're going to pick up on many of the points you've made with an activist in the Netherlands later in the programme. Chris, take care.